Welcome back to the channel, lads and ladies, and welcome to, well, soon to be more Kikka gameplay. So, the Walker Bulldog is a fantastic vehicle to use to get into the Kikka in ground battles. Tank RP is still my favorite place to play Kikka. As with most beginner jets, it fares very poorly. Hello, Frenchy boy. Goodbye, Frenchy boy. It fares very poorly against things like the F-84, which it can commonly face, and the typical balancing issues with jets arise in AirRB as we pick up what will eventually be 2 kill assists, I'm sure, and get just enough points to take out Bomb Chan on the on the Kikka, which is by far the easier way to fly. When you have the extra 90 to 106, I think, spawn points in order to carry out your 800 kilogram bomb, it's pretty much point and click when it comes to killing a single group of ground targets, as I'm sure we'll shortly demonstrate. Also, I'm going to be talking more about my strategy when it comes to using Kikka. You see that we're not engaging the enemy from directly in front of where we expect them to be, but we're coming in from the side. Now, ordinarily, a side shot on an enemy tank is not the easiest with a bomb, but as you see us getting our bomb off and making our way out, one of my strategies when it comes to flying jets is to never give the enemy a straight shot at you. So if the tanks are moving one direction, I'll try and cross their T, as it were, so they won't have an easy time aiming at me, especially since with the Kikka, I like to stay low to the ground, not perform those steep diving attacks that I actually prefer in things like the Narwhal, just because Kikka does start to lock up at higher speeds, and you might find yourself having a difficult time pulling out of those dives. A quick spray in the direction of that P-47 grants us a hit, but no critical damage, which is a rare occurrence with these very powerful 30 mils available on the Kikka. You may have noticed that I spray a bit more with my cannons than I used to. They do have a somewhat lower fire rate and a little bit of diversion when it comes to their accuracy. Not quite as accurate, say, as American 50 cals, so even if you are aiming at the right spot, you might need to put a few rounds in the air before you score a hit. But as you saw with that P-47, once you get that convergence, it definitely does some serious damage. Another, what looks like a Bearcat or a P-47, it is indeed a Jug, as we spray again and shred him to pieces. Very, very satisfying. So in a few minutes, we've already secured a tank kill on a heavy IS-2, deadly target, and 2 air kills. And that's just about all we managed to do in that match, so it was important for us to stay active early on. The rest was just kind of plinking ground targets, really nothing for my Kikka to do, and I actually didn't end up dying in any of my matches today in the Kikka, except one, now that I think about it. So I think I died once today. I don't think repair cost is going to be a problem. Kikka is a very capable jet, especially when it's only facing beginner jets itself. Again, once you get into things like the F-84, they can outfly you if they do things properly. And here you see us in the Bulldog again, and we're getting some nice engine shots on this poor IS-6. Poor fella. Poor Wallet Warrior. That's still a great heavy tank, by the way. I try and take them down whenever I can. And with this 6-7 lineup, we can definitely face 7-3s and the Walker Bulldog. No issues going mono-a-mono against this poor, underprivileged Soviet heavy tank. But such is not the case for long, as we get flanked and taken down by the advancing horde of enemy heavy tanks. However, we did capture the point, and notice that's the B point, the mid-map point. If you're in a quick light tank, target that mid-map capture zone. Don't go for the closest one. it's a waste of your talents. At least that's my personal advice. You see, immediately we drop low and skim the deck with Kikka, and she is quite nimble at medium-high speeds. Really good at making small adjustments. Once you get into trying to turn tightly and pull off those tight maneuvers, Kikka's a little bit less responsive, but she is a very capable beginner jet. As we go for the kill on the F4, and we take him down nicely with one shot setting his fuselage on fire and the other cannon shearing off a wing. So very deadly as usual. Again, we're doing a little bit of spraying, but at just the right time. We've gotten a feel for the guns on Kikka. We wait until our enemy's flying in a straight line. We go ahead and close distance as much as they'll let us before opening up with our shots, and we try and make the first volley be a killing blow. And since there is a ground target there and we still had Bomb Chan with us, we go ahead and drop her off to school. Explosion school. And kaboom. Nice column of smoke coming up from a burning enemy tank as we make our way, well, we consider making our way back to the airfield. Every time I turn to head back for the airstrip, I always check 6 and especially look toward the enemy air spawn, and I did see a dot there, so we're going to circle back around, make sure our speed's over 400 miles per hour, which is enough for us to work with, and we'll be in the mid 400s to the early 500s by the time we engage our target. Plenty of energy in the Kikka to pull off any sort of defensive flying that we need to do, and when it comes to that, I might as well mention, the Kikka is very good at zoom climbing. As you see, we're going up into the cloud cover here to try and get a better look at the combat zone. We saw an enemy come in and dive bomb, and I'm not sure if he's still in the area or if he actually crashed on the attack. A lot of people, when they're starting out with, say, their P-47, they'll use their second spawn to jump into something that has a lot of rockets and bombs, and then they'll dive too hard and lock up and just crash into the first target they go after. And I'm definitely not immune to that. I've sort of done it enough to learn from my mistakes as we tail what appears to be another mid-model P-47, one of the shiny ones. So pulling with him and a nice shred on the wing as he goes into an uncontrolled spiral. Again, the kills with Kikka are just cinematic. Is that our second air kill? I believe it is. So we've already gotten one ground target. And again, we're pulling around with mouse control, but we're also hitting some negative elevator on the keyboard to control our turn and help us conserve energy. Speed is life in the early jets, and the Kikka is no exception. You like the little accent I threw on there? You're welcome. So, as usual, we're taking 6 minutes of fuel. If you're not able to dispose of your ordnance and make enough of an impact in your jet within 6 minutes, well, it's time to head back for the runway anyway, because you only have 50 rounds of ammunition per 30mm cannon, which is plenty, especially once you unlock the Otsu modification to have two 30mm in the nose. And as you've seen, those can do the work with controlled bursts. But you will want to get back to the airfield every 5 minutes or so just to keep yourself up at fighting strength. And one of my strategies that I sometimes use is to focus on ground attack by dropping off my bomb, running straight back to the airfield, and making another bombing run as soon as possible. And in a mid-length match, I can usually get 3 or 4 bombing runs in if I get into the Kikka at a reasonable amount of time, and that gives me lots of opportunities to deal damage to enemy ground targets. If you get your way of attacking with the bombs down, which does take some learning in Kikka, because again, you do start to lock up a bit in the higher speeds, and your elevator is not the best when it comes to the beginner jets. This is no meteor. It's more along the lines of an ME-262 that went on a crash diet and subsists on a diet of sushi and allied tears. So not all that difference, but basically, the Kikka is a very lightweight ME-262 that can carry a very heavyweight bomb and trades some fuel capacity and airframe durability for, well, along with a couple of the guns, for the ability to be lighter and a bit more nimble. So here we are in another match. That last one was just starting to wind down, and this one's really going to be fun for us. So we started off in the Walker Bulldog as normal, went and captured a point, harassed the enemy until they finished us off, but no worries, I don't care about McKD. I'm just here to let Kikka take Bomb-chan for a walk to school, and then after that situation blows up, we'll just see what happens. I think in this one we end up getting a ground kill and 4 air kills, so stay tuned for that one. Again, low to the ground, but conserving our speed with a little bit looser turns and approaching the battlefield from side on to where I expect enemies to be, checking the horizon here, and we find our first target, which is an IS-3, so that is a satisfying kill. Was that? Yeah, I think that was an IS-3. Could it be an IS-4M? That would mean we're in a 7-7. I think this was actually a 7-3 match, so that would have been an IS-3. Which can be, even still, with the incredible armor penetration that you have with things like Heat FS and APDS, the IS-3 can still be a tough nut to crack. Not so hard for an 800 kilogram bomb though, especially when it basically makes skin-to-skin contact. And this is the American Spitfire that's on my tail. The Spitfire LF Mark 9, I think. Very deadly aircraft. As you can see, he got a piece of me, a really, really good piece of me. Lucky that there's not really any fuel stored in the rear fuel tank right now. I think it's all in the front for the most part. And he didn't manage to detonate that before. You saw some very mild evasive maneuvers. We want to keep flying in a straight line, but just turn parallel to his shots and pull a bit on the elevator to pull us out of his line of flight. Again, never give the enemy a straight shot. Now we have the advantage as we get our turn in before he does. We don't manage to line up our shots, and a Spitfire is not going to forgive you in a reversal, so he's already, I'm sure, turning onto my 6. We pull a little bit of a roll there just to make it difficult for him to aim if he did happen to have his guns on, and we wanted to focus on our flying, especially since we have a head-on with a P-51, so avoid the Mustang. We tried to go for him but not commit too hard to a head-on, and he had sort of the same idea. I think I was seeing some smoke from his 50 cals blazing those stealth rounds, which you should all be running if you're using the American 50 cals. Getting a feel for the stealth rounds with the 50s can really help you do some sneaky cheeky, especially long range killing with those guns. Now getting low to the deck, we have enough speed to be able to make another attack run, and that's exactly what we're going to do. I'd like to take down the Spitfire. I wouldn't mind taking down the P-51, but the Spit is definitely more of a threat with its low range acceleration. He's committed to a turn here, so he has to roll. We actually hit him with a 30 mil there, and it didn't deal that critical damage we needed, but another hit to the wing sends him into a death spiral, and yet something clipped our passenger side, our right side engine, and so we need to get back to the airfield as soon as possible. Thankfully, we have some allied aircraft in the sky to take down that P-51, so I don't have to worry about him. That definitely would have been the end of Kikka-chan for this match if that hadn't happened for me, so I appreciate it. Now it's going to be a rather long trip back to the airfield, and yet it takes only seconds, again with the incredible speed that you have in the Kikka when you have the minimum amount of fuel and after you've already dropped the bomb. This really is a fantastic aircraft. For those of you that are wondering what it feels like to fly the ME-262 event vehicle that has the bombs and only two 30mm cannons, this is kind of like that, only you get more muzzle velocity out of it as well. So this really is one of those underestimated aircraft in the Japanese tree. The R2Y2 is another one of those jets that's very popular, especially since in Air RB it gets a bomber spawn. But overall, I prefer the Kikka because it has that 6-7 battle rating that means that you'll never face radar-guided SPAA, and we've already talked about that before. Now, when it comes to takeoff with Kikka, what I like to do, and this doesn't seem to make too much of a difference when you decide to use the rockets, but first I'll turn on my engines because this is ground RB. Your engines start in the off position, so jets take a bit longer to spool up, and once both of the jets are shooting a historically inaccurate flame out of the back end, come on, Gaijin, just give us some cool hot exhaust. But we're spitting flame like we're afterburning, and as soon as they start firing up, then I'll give it some throttle just because I don't want to pull to the right, as the left engine tends to turn on before the right one, as with the ME-262. And I like to hit my boost button, which is B for me, in case you were wondering, to activate the rockets pretty much once the wheels start turning, so around 10-20 miles per hour, and I'll hit the rockets, and you see nice smooth takeoff with the 800 kilo bomb. Kikka definitely has much better low range acceleration when it's not carrying an 800 kilo bomb, but as I mentioned, this is one of the best tools for ground strike you have access to, especially in the Japanese tree. It is a one-shot wonder, but as soon as you drop that bomb, you turn into one of the most deadly and secure anti-aircraft platforms available at the 6-7 battle rating. So Kikka definitely has that going for it. And when it comes to that topic, overall, the Kikka is a well-balanced now 6-7 jet. It is one of those beginner jets that can teach you good discipline for flying as a jet pilot. It loses a lot of speed if you try and turn tightly, and pretty much every prop will outturn you if you get into a turning fight with them, especially advanced players. As we spot another target, drop it through the trees and hope for the best. Wait for that 1 second, and that could have gone better, honestly. I feel like we missed him by that much. Did he stop? Was our aim off? Who's to say? We missed that one. It is a little bit disappointing that one bomb drop is your only chance to really damage ground targets. Even though the Kikka has access to high velocity 30 mils, it does not have HVAP rounds as the Germans do, so you'll be shooting practice rounds if you go for something like a ground strike belt, and it just doesn't do enough damage. And with only 50 ammo per gun, you really are better off saving that for taking down enemy fighters. Speaking of, at this battle rating, you see a lot of AD2. Beautiful. I mean, look at that cinematic kill. I've been having so much fun flying this airplane. Now, of course, I have it spaded. The Kikka kind of sucks until you unlock all of the upgrades for it, as with almost every jet in the game. So you really just have to bear through the grind. I actually got halfway through spading the Kikka before I decided to put a talisman on it, and that only because I think I've bought about 4 talismans in the entire course of playing War Thunder, and that's because I want to grind out the new top tier jet using the Kikka because I've been having so much fun. So to get back to generalizing the stats of the Kikka, it's a typical beginner jet. It really does fly a lot like a lightweight ME-262. You have a little bit less elevator authority, I'd say, than what you can expect out of an ME-262. They can turn a bit tighter if they want to, but both aircraft are going to bleed a lot of speed in a tight turn. Kikka has better low-range acceleration, especially because of its light frame, perhaps a bit less energy retention as we get the crit on that P-51, and yes, that is an enemy F-84 that went zooming past us, and now they're zoom climbing. As you see, we're following them, and this is a fight of energy retention. You're going to watch us nose down a little bit as soon as he starts nosing up. This is going to give us the advantage in the stall fight that we're about to, well, we would get into if my shots don't find him here. And indeed they do, ripping off both wings. So what did we just do? We played the energy game and we won. Fair fight against an F-84 and we beat him. Now, ordinarily, again, things like the F-84, like the early F-80 and the later F-80 at 8.0. Is it an 8.0? I could be wrong. Anyway, these aircraft are going to pick you to pieces. But thankfully with a 6-7 battle rating, you can do okay, and you won't face them as often as, say, the R2Y2. Overall, I've just been having a total blast in the Kikka, and that's why I'm making yet another video on it. I really just don't feel like playing anything else. It's been so fun. And I think that is really the secret to being happy in War Thunder. You're not always going to be happy. You'll get bored with the things that you enjoy flying. But I'm just really pleased to have a vehicle that makes the entire Japanese 6-7 lineup fun to play. And how many 6-7 vehicles do I have in my 6-7 lineup? 2. The Kikka and that weird tank destroyer thing with 2 barrels. Anyway, guys, catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.